All right. I want to make a mess. Who wants to make a mess with me? This is my big bin of collage bits. I mentioned this in a previous video. This is where I put the tinier bits of collage stuff that I have. I have a big bin in here that I can rummage through. These are my weird acrylic coffee papers. I do not like pouring acrylic dirty paint water down my drain. So I have a system where I pour it into a bucket, and then from that bucket I pour it into another bucket, but through a metal coffee strainer with a paper coffee filter in it. And it catches the big particles and strains the water through, and then ideally that water evaporates off before the bucket is full. Time will tell if that second bit actually happens. But then I take the paper filters, and they're actually really interesting, like grungy collage fodder. So that's pretty cool. I've got some coffee dyed papers and grungy stuff here. Let's grab some of that. I like, oh, okay. I apologize now if you are one of those people who thinks that it is an absolute sin to dismantle a book. Look away, because I do. I repurpose books in my work. I'd rather they be in my work than in a landfill. I find them at, flea markets and stuff. I, as of yet, have not repurposed anything of such great value that anyone should be scandalized. I did find this really cool book at a flea market fairly recently called An American Artist Looks at Taiwan by Hudson Meek. It's got this amazing paper, just like the coolest paper, rice papers and just interesting textures, and like, look at that typeface and these sketches, and yeah, I love this stuff. I think it's amazing. So I'm going to take a piece from that. I have, as of yet, not used any paper from it. I think today's the day. I've got various giant bits of painted papers and leftovers from previous collages and whatnots. And then I try and organize the smallest bits up here just so they don't get out of hand. And then I do this other thing. I try and take the teeny bits and make these little collage rolls. I'm working on one right now from I found a box of old receipt paper rolls at the Goodwill for like $2. And so I've just been like collaging tiny bits onto it. And then you can take a strip from these collage rolls and use them in your collaging. So that's cool. So I'm still working on that one. These I collaged onto strips of tissue that I glued together. And then I did a certain amount of like painting and mark making over them. I'm going to grab that one. And I've been really colorful lately, but I'm in the mood to do something a little bit more moody and neutral right now. So I'll put those papers away. If I do need some brighter colors, this is the bin I mentioned. It's just full of tissue papers that are organized by color. So if I want to grab something out of there, I can. And then this is my junk journal, art journal folder. I forget what these prong thingies are called, but whatever. And I have some papers here. I honestly, before I even got into journaling, junk journaling, art journaling, before I left my full-time job, I found this vintage biology textbook at a little vintagey shop where normally I would look for vintage clothes and stuff. And I don't know why, but I fell in love with the book. I liked the cover. I love all kinds of plants and nature things, and so um, the biology angle was interesting to me from that perspective. And I kept the book, and then when I started doing more of the journaling, I got really interested in altered book journaling, where you take a book and actually turn it into the journal and work directly inside it. And there's if you're interested, just look on YouTube for altered book journaling. Kelly at Book and Paper Arts is one of the people that I followed most when I got really interested. So I will try to remember to link her below. And I mean, I was convinced that I was going to transform this book and many other books into these beautiful works of art. Among other things, it was not a good book to use in that kind of altered book capacity. So if you go down that rabbit hole, you will learn really quickly that the way the book is bound makes a big difference. The condition of the book makes a big difference. The spine, all kinds of different things. The thickness, especially for someone who's new to altered bookmaking, working with something thin is much easier. And this was a big, chunky old textbook from I think the 70s, and it was not a good candidate. I just loved it so much. In the process of trying to do altered bookmaking, one of the things I was doing was gluing several pages together. I was removing pages, extraneous pages from the book. I was doing it the wrong way, but I was doing it. And then I was gluing remaining pages together to give them a bit more heft to work on. So this is like page 201. This is page 222. So in between there, I have removed a bunch and glued a bunch. And I did my best to get the glue nice and flat. It was not always successful. In this case, I definitely wasn't. And then when I ended up pulling the book apart and realized I wanted to still use pages from it, but not in the way I had originally planned. I did a little bit of decollage. I found parts of book pages that I had tried to glue together that once I removed them from the book, I found that there were entire bits of the page that actually weren't well glued, and I ripped those off. And decollage as a process is a little bit more intentional than that, where you're layering collage pieces and strips and then pulling them off, in some cases often before the medium or the glue is even fully set, and maybe working in layers and all that. So definitely not what I was doing in that case, but the very similar effect where we have these cool like torn page bits that now I want to continue to work with and preserve. So part of me is thinking, I might kind of rip some of this stuff apart a little bit more, do a little bit of hopefully intentional decollage. I haven't done a lot of decollage, so who knows how well this is actually going to go. And just play around, make a bit of a mess with these pages. So here we go. I found another loose bit, and I'm just gonna rip. And what's wonderful is some of it's gonna come right off all the way, oof, and some of it is not. And now I've got these bits that I can rip up further and re-glue in their own way, which I think is really gonna be fun and interesting and textural. And yeah, let's just, I want this mess. Mere moments before he turned on the camera, I was playing with a different piece of paper that will end up in a journal, and it also started by accident. Here, I'll just grab it. It's still wet. I apologize now that you did not get to see me make this. So if you are interested in this gorgeous, grungy, muckety, messy mess, and if you hate it, I understand, because there was once upon a time I probably would have been like, ugh, but now I dig all of the texture and the line and the weird. I started with a piece of corrugated cardboard, and I was like, this seems sturdy enough. I'm going to turn it into a surface and make a painting on it. And I started prepping it with some gesso, and I sprayed it with some ink spray, and I covered it with some stuff, and I did some collage. Like, there's a lot of stuff that happened early on. And honestly, the corrugated cardboard was not a great choice, and it was buckling weirdly, and I couldn't get it to go flat, and it was like flimsy and sturdy at the same time. So then I just ripped the top layer off, and I got this, except there's a hole I had to cover. So I collaged that onto the back to patch a little hole right around there, and then I've been using some water-soluble stuff and spreading it around, and anyway, now I just want to make more messes. So if, again, if that horrifies you, then, you know, stick around, because I actually make art that looks nothing like that sometimes. Or don't, if it horrifies you too much that you're not willing to take the chance. I don't know. But for now, I'm just going to keep playing with paper, pulling stuff apart a bit. Then I will then be able to glue back down. So this is probably the most important thing that I have been learning over the last year or so is that I can't control as much as I would like to control, especially in art. I suppose if I was somebody who did, you know, a lot of careful study at an art institute and devoted my life to a specific medium, I'm sure that I could. There are many people who do that. It is wonderful. It is just not me. I want to try all the things. I want to use all the media. I want to play. I want to express. And I want to make more than I want to master the subtle art of perfect watercolor, for example. I love learning about watercolor. I like getting better at watercolor. I like understanding what I'm doing so that I have as much control as possible. But at the end of the day, I really just like to experiment, and that fills me with so much joy. And the accidents that happen as a result of that play, that's what makes me want to get up in the morning, because I don't know what's going to happen, and I love it. And oftentimes things happen that I couldn't have imagined for myself, and that's what makes me excited. So I like, you know, when I ripped these pages apart that were glued together, I didn't know what I was going to get, but like this one I kind of knew. I tore that one with some intentionality. But I love the ones with the holes. I wouldn't have thought about how that was going to look as an individual piece of paper. I love these cells and this little bit where you can kind of see just the tiniest bit of text. There, I'm trying to get that up closer to the camera. Yeah, it's just a hint right there, right? I'm just like such a fan, right? This text here is so obvious, but then because I've ripped away the layer of paper, the text from the other side is showing through on the bottom. Like, that is so super cool. I want to glue it that way. I want to have both types of text. And because I can't think about that or plan that or imagine exactly what it's going to look like, that's what makes these kinds of processes and these messes so incredibly fun and interesting for me. So what I've got now, I've got these pieces. I've got this guy here. I kind of want to glue this to another substrate because it's gotten kind of flimsy. Ooh, but that's really cool. So maybe not, or maybe I'll use tissue paper over the, oh yeah, I'm gonna use tissue paper over the top of this. New plan, because I'm worried I'm gonna forget. I'm gonna table all this stuff, and I'm gonna go collect some tissue papers, and I'm gonna do this right now while I am fully engaged and thinking about it, because I went from one plan to collage / decollage to I really love everything about both sides of this paper. How can I shore it up and continue to work with it? And to me that says, let's do something transparent enough that we're going to get a lot of this showing through, but by adding layers on, it's going to get stronger and more resilient. And now I need to do it. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to collect some new papers, and I'll meet you back here. All right, let's go through papers together. I'm going to do this rather quickly, but I figure I might as well have you with me when I see something in the mood strikes. That's interesting. I'll put it over there as a possibility. This has these cool little like ferny shapes. Not sure I'm feeling blue, but I am feeling those shapes. No. No. All right, so these are papers. Primarily, a lot of them are going to be, especially these tissue papers, are going to be things I created on the gel print. I like these colors. On the gel plate, I love gel plate printing, and I do occasionally try to pull like a composed print, but honestly not very often. And at first I thought that meant that I was like not very good at it, and maybe it still means that, but it's not really my thing. I like making papers that I can then combine with all kinds of other stuff, and I just like having them here for days like this when I go, oh my gosh, I need paper. I do want, one of the things I need to be thoughtful about is I want stuff to show through. So I need the paint on the papers to be reasonably translucent, or I need the paper to have white space like this, actually. So I can have some with a fair amount of opacity, but I need to make sure that when I lay that paper down, some of the stuff underneath is going to poke through, because that's kind of the whole point of this exercise. So like, this is really kind of cool looking, but it's pretty opaque. It's pretty full up. I don't think we're going to see much through it. I'm going to knock that blue out. And let's see what else talks to me. And a lot of these, like, I don't love the way it looks as a full piece. It's not anything I would ever dare put in a frame. But what I love is the way these things work as a piece of paper that I then essentially can paint with, right? By layering it and combining it with other things. So that's where the fun and the magic is. Love that. And it's, see, this is when you use paint that's transparent enough on its own, then even when the tissue is fully covered like this one is, you still see the print underneath. So I can almost guarantee that the majority of this color here is azo gold or quinacridone nickel azo gold from Golden Acrylics, which is sort of a holy grail paint color, and it's super transparent. It has that wonderful gold quality. Oh, this is, I want to snuggle up to that one at night. It's pretty paper. So yeah, so some of these, even though they're very, very full, they'll work, and others not as much. Ooh, trying to figure out which side I painted on. Definitely this side. I painted on this side. Nah. Ooh, this is golden acrylics, fluid, phthalo turquoise, and it's another one that's really transparent. So that'll look really nice, I think. So grab that. Fun textures. We're looking for fun textures. Ooh. This bit of gold. This is shiny and gold. I like that. There's lots of white space, essentially. These must not have gotten put in my box with all my little tissue bits because I didn't have boxes for browns and neutrals. But they would look nice. And get some real natural fibers in. So pull a couple of these. I think most of these would have come from Blick. They have black ink, like sampler pack or scrap pack that you can buy with just random colors of mulberry paper. And I had picked up one of those because I thought they'd be fun, and they really are. It's a great way to just get a variety of papers to work from. I'm gonna put all of these little guys over there. We've got some Asemic writing. That's always fun. And then these are shapes that I printed out onto tissue paper. And again, or medical exam paper in some cases, wet strength, gift tissue. But they're gonna mostly melt away when they're collaged. So they make some really cool impressions in any collage composition. And so far on camera, I think I've been doing an awful lot of collaging as a backdrop, but not a lot of collaging to make a composition. So this is going to be fun because I think we may actually end up with something composed by the time I'm done, because I'm enjoying that paper itself so much already. Like, I'm not going to want to cover everything up. So in the process of doing this, we may end up with like a full-on focal point and stuff. Who knew we would have such neato papers? The best part about creating a stash of papers like this is that then when you go through them, it's almost like shopping, right? Because you've forgotten about a lot of them, and then you see them again, and you get excited all over again, and it's just inspiring and interesting, and I really love that. So I really just need that little scrap. This was cool. I took this piece of rice paper that has, like, you know, some actual plant matter already in the paper. And then it looks like I haven't done anything to it, but can you see these little like squares? This is basically just the tiniest little bit of white stencil print, negative print on there, for a little bit of added texture. It was a lot of fun. I think it's one of those really subtle things. And sometimes that can be the hardest thing to do, especially in gel printing, is coming up with, you know, making the time, or just any sort of painted paper creation, taking the time to paint things that are really subtle, because later you're gonna need quiet space, you're gonna need neutrals. Ooh, like this. Like, this gold paper is not maybe the most exciting thing you've ever seen, but combined with everything else, it will look pretty cool. Or even this guy, like, so taking time to make the quiet papers is important. Even though sometimes all you want to do is grab a bunch of really bright colors and make the loudest papers you've ever seen in your life. Because we definitely have these. This went all kinds of wrong. It did not do what I had intended. I love it. Yeah, it's magic. This was fun. I did a bunch of gel printing recently, and I had a bunch of sheets where I was like trying to just pull off pieces from stencils and things, and I just kept pulling off onto this big sheet of gift wrap tissue, and now it's just this big jumble of patterns and stuff. I've got a couple of them. And that is something that I'm definitely going to do more of. A, because I don't have to go through the bother of trying to cut up tissue papers, which is not always easy to do. And B, because the result is pretty interesting and unusual. So I seem to be ending up on a like brown, gold, green kick. So I'm just going to keep going with that. Oh my gosh. Oh, I made this very recently and I remember it and it makes me so happy. The thing I hate, like I'm filming this at night because it's when I'm in the mood to work. And you know, I'm not a professional lighting guru, and some of this stuff, like the sheen and whatnot, it doesn't get justice on the camera. I wish it did. I love this one. This one made me really happy. I did it almost entirely by accident, and I could probably not recreate it if I tried, but I love it. All right, so that's me whittling down tissue papers. Super fun. All right. I've got this little bit, which I really liked too. This is from, I have a die cutting machine, and I had die cut these little bug shapes out of this piece of painted book paper. And I like the negative bugs that it created, and I think that would look really cool layered on here in some way. So and I also really love to collage with sewing pattern paper. It's that tissue paper, especially the old stuff, which is, as you might imagine, my favorite. You know, when I can, I try and grab them for $1 a pattern. Some places they're more these days, but when I can get them for $1 a pattern, I'll usually pick up several, and then you just get these nice crinkly aged papers with lines and stuff, and I just love to throw those in with everything. So I'm gonna grab a sip of water because my throat is getting dry, and then let's get going. Now, I don't want this video to be the longest video on earth, so I am probably going to split it into two, and that's also good because after drinking that water, I have realized just how thirsty I am, and I probably ought to take a break and sit down and do that because I've been doing all kinds of different art things. But before I do that, I do want to get a layer or two on here. And then the benefit to all of us is we'll have this going, and then we can come back and do tomorrow's video and continue the work. So, gonna grab some more deli paper. That's this stuff here. Yay. This box is probably going to last me years. It's 1,000 sheets, and I reuse them a lot, so I expect they're going to last a while. Because we want as much as possible to show through, I think the big thing to keep in mind is more transparency in the layers is better than less transparency. I know that sounds obvious maybe, but I've got some stuff in here that's going to have a little bit more opacity, and that's going to be a little bit more coverage, and I want to be very intentional about where I place that paper, and probably do it in some of the later stages when I'm actually trying to get a little bit more of a composition. Now for this, since the translucency is really important to me, I am going to go ahead and use gloss medium and water in the process, and that is just going to give me the greatest degree of that transparency or translucency in the finished product. So I'm just going to put gloss kind of all over the place. And you'll see I'm not like super precious about how I get it on there. I just spread and go with my trusty paint shaper here. And there. I mean, it melts right onto it, right? We've got that gloss medium on the top and the bottom with the water. And it's just, looks like we might as well have just painted it directly on the page right this moment. With some nice translucent paint. And I love that. So I'm going to, I mean, because it's going to go so transparent, I probably don't have to go to the trouble of tearing off the white bits, but I still tend to. And I still save those. I have, you know, these collage bins that you're seeing, where I have all of these papers organized for myself, but I also have just a big giant bin where I put papers that are not precious, things that just random, well, stuff like this, right? Random white tissue paper, other things that are not pretty or particularly interesting, but that if I'm collaging backgrounds like I've been doing, I can just reach in, almost not even pay attention to what paper I'm grabbing, and just plop it right on the page and go. And that is really beneficial, I found. So I just save all that stuff. Let's see. TBD on whether today is the day we use this. This one, however, yes. And I'm actually going to get scissors out. I do an awful lot of tearing, but I'm trying to get the white off, and I don't want to have a bunch of pieces with just little bits. That happens sometimes where I'll get pretty close but not close, and I lose that little edge, and sometimes I like the little edge. And in this one in particular, the edges are where a lot of the interest is, so that helped me get a neater edge, which I am going to place here at the edge. Alright, we're making a mess. I did promise you that. I completely changed what I thought I was going to do when I started, but we're still making a mess. And with me, you're usually making a mess. Alright, so let's get our water on there. It's nice and wet. And it's just going to melt right in. You know, should I have, for example, moved the journal this is going in out from under the piece I'm working on? Probably. But I did not. And we are here now. And I don't feel like doing it. And deli paper's protecting it. So, you know, rock and roll. Alright. Blobbing my gloss right on. Gosh, I remember when I was so careful. I used to just, oop, my water. I used to just be so precious and careful with everything, and it really stifled my creativity, and I hated most of the work I produced because it lacked depth and almost never turned out the way I wanted it to, because there seems to be some sort of blockage between our brains and our bodies, and what we think we're going to try and produce and what it's actually going to look like. And yeah, then we end up here doing these really great collage papers. Oh my gosh, I just love this already. Okay. I'm going to set that one aside because I think I'm probably going to pick it up again. Do we want this on? This is going to go with the flower one, where if we add it later, I think it'll be more in the end stages. See, this is what I was talking about. I ripped that tiny little bit of green off while I was trying to pull away the white. This one, that doesn't bother me, but in that other one with the nickel azo gold and that little bit of turquoise and whatnot that was catching in the edges, like I needed that. I needed that to be on the paper, so it's on the paper. Still got gloss there, reasonably wet, so we can just lay that down and go. Now we're introducing our green, which is nice because this is our biology book, plant biology. Oh, that's the important part. It was plant biology. It wasn't just regular biology. It was botany. That's what it was. It was my botany book. I actually found, I made sure to save for myself what the book is because I don't know why I love it so much, but I do. And that way, if I see it up for sale again, somewhere, I can pick myself up another copy and continue to have it to work with, because for whatever reason it really speaks to me. Okay, so now we've got a little bit of that green overlapping some of that orangey gold, and that's just lovely. And yeah, it's really interesting when we find things that speak to us in that way. You know, I wasn't really good at listening to that for a long time. And I often felt like I needed to come up with very rational explanations for a lot of the choices I made, in all areas of life. And one of the things that I love the most about the kind of art that I do these days is that I don't feel that need anymore. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's just when you just listen to the part of you that says, make this or put that there, and you don't question it, you get results that you couldn't have planned. And I'm so excited by those results that I try and listen to that when it happens. And so that's a big part of, you know, even picking out those papers we just went through. Like, I don't know why I said yes to some and no to others, except that my brain just said, yes, this is it, use it, grab it, or maybe my heart said it, who knows. But once we're there, and we get to do this, and we don't know what it's going to be in the end, and that's okay and awesome. And I'm really excited. It's one of the hardest things about trying to do YouTube or anything is so much of what I make and what I love can be really, it's really spontaneous and intuitive, and that can be hard to do on camera when you're recording. And so I feel sometimes a little bit stifled or forced when I get on here and try to make a video, not because I'm like pretending or inauthentic in some way, but just because I'm trying to make magic happen at a prescribed time. Like, how do you do that, right? It's lightning in a bottle is not something that you schedule. And I think that that's actually my biggest reason for this daily journal project that I've decided to do, is that it's gonna, by constantly recording content that I'm gonna put out there, you're gonna see plenty of days where there's like no magic, and we're just setting up for a day when maybe something cool does happen. But there are gonna be more opportunities for that magic, because we're just going to be hanging out together more often. Maybe I should even create a separate playlist where if we have those videos with this one with these kinds of moments, they can go on a special list, a special spot to watch back later, for all of the really good stuff. Oh my gosh. I honestly, when I picked this up, I was like, I don't know if this piece is going to work with the ones I got on there. I feel a little like I'm forcing it or something, but the little voice said, I know where we need to use this one, and I used it, and now super into what's going on there. So that's going with the other one that I definitely plan to use more of. So now we have this gold one, and this green has been nice, and this one that I want to use plenty of. This one I'm not going to use in this. It's got a lot of that. I mean, it's got all of the characteristics, but I don't think the colors are right. I don't want to expand the color choices beyond where we already are. I'm going to say black. Black doesn't exactly count, especially since it's already on the page in the text. And gold is part of that family there enough. But yeah, I don't want to introduce those pinks and blues where we've got these other colors. I don't think that's going to serve the piece, but that's quite nice. Oh, it's so fun. I have been in a place where a lot of my creativity right now, and a lot of making time for creativity, this does not have enough of the medium on it right now, has been about me knowing that I need to keep that going, both for myself, because it's very healing and soothing and special, to just make. It does a lot for me emotionally, and in a lot of ways, honestly, spiritually. And I that's been really necessary for me lately. And so creativity for me has really been very soothing at a time when I feel like I really need that soothing. The world has been going a bit mad, and I think it's been a hard time for a lot of people, and I'm feeling that even when it's not directly affecting me. It's just kind of that fog that descends. And so this is important, but it also, that living in that space can make it hard to create, especially things that are elaborate and interesting. Like, you know, I've done a few pieces that I really like, finished pieces that go well beyond art journaling. Although art journaling is wonderful. I'm not trying to knock it. We're here for a reason. But you know, things that I would sell, things that I would frame, things that I would show people as part of a portfolio. It's really hard to do that work when you're emotionally depleted, and I've been in that space a lot lately. So this has just been, I mostly come here and I do prep work. I do collages that are just for backgrounds. I make pages for me to use later. No. It's too rigid. Everything else is very organic, quite literally. You know, we've got our organic botany book. It's not right. This is good. And this one's fun, look, because it's hard to see, but there's like circles and patterns that are stamped into here that are going to reveal themselves more once it's glued down. So I really kind of want to get into that. And it fits our color story, so we can. Yeah, so it's weird to start this journal project at a time when I don't feel like the work I'm doing is maybe particularly exciting. I still think it's great. I think it's worthwhile. I think anybody who picks up these videos and uses them to sort of inspire their own journaling project. See, I was going to do that there and then I changed my mind. But it's been a little bit weird to be like, watch me right now while I'm not doing things that are as interesting or attention grabbing as, some of my favorite work. And if you're interested, you can go to my Etsy shop. I've got prints and stuff of a lot of that work. So I'm not trying to be obtuse or, cryptic about any of it. But today is exciting for me because I feel like I'm breaking beyond that. And oftentimes the only way to break past that, I want to make things because it makes me feel good, but I don't feel like I'm in a great creative space. Like a lot of times the only way to break through that is to just sit down and make stuff. So that when you're ready, when the muse or whatever decides to show up, you're there working. And there's a quote, and I'm gonna butcher it and I can't remember who said it, but essentially it's that when inspiration arrives, it better see you working. And it's that idea that, like, no matter who you are, even the geniuses, they have to put work into their craft. They have to put that time behind things so that they're kind of ready to catch that spark when it shows up, so that they've been practicing, so that they're prepared, all of that. And I really believe in that. I think that that's fundamental to creating, and it's another reason why it's so important to me to make time to be creative every day. And I mentioned this in the intro video for this series, but there are going to be plenty of times when I record multiple videos in a day rather than a video a day, because life is a bit too demanding and chaotic and unpredictable to know for sure that you can sit down and make a video every day. But by taking the time to make sure that I can release a video every day and make it part of my overall practice, that's, I think, a big part of where that magic is. And this is, I released some videos today that I edited. This is the first one I filmed today. But because I had been in here doing some stuff, actually I can't remember. That might not be true. I may have done something else earlier. What is time? Because I've been in here a lot today, planning and working and being in that space, I think that that's the reason I was able to kind of catch this when it came along. All right, I want to keep some of this little cellular diagram completely unobstructed. I want that little bit of white space down there, so I need to remember that. You'll see too, with almost everything, I'm trying to do at least 3 pieces from a piece of paper if I choose to use that paper. I wouldn't necessarily do that if the papers were created together in a way where they were particularly cohesive with one another. And there are many virtues to creating in that way so that everything works together. Perhaps later in my art journey, when I have, when I'm less feeling the need to try and explore all the things, I may get a bit more where, I have my set of paint colors that I love and those are the ones I always use, etc. But right now, I just have such a wealth of supplies and colors and things that I'm playing with. That's just not where I am. I want to, I'm going to eat the entire elephant right now. And so just to make sure that there's enough cohesiveness and continuity, I am trying to use multiples from the same paper in a few places rather than just one. And doing that in odd numbers is typically more pleasing. So in a lot of these cases, even when they're very small, I'm going to have like 3 or 5 or even 7 pieces of a paper. It's going to become, I think, a little less relevant or necessary as this layers up further. Do I really want this? Yeah, I think I do. It's a very quiet green. These papers I know were created by very carefully diluting acrylic paint down and washing it over tissue paper and basically just completely saturating it. Oh, plop that nearby. The water goes on, then the gloss. It is a messy process to do that. I usually do it on a silicone mat, just so or silicone mats, plural, so I can move stuff around. But it does produce these wonderful quiet papers where we get the color, but it's somewhat muted, and it's almost like creating your own colored tissue paper. Ooh. So, you know, instead of buying already colored gift wrap tissue, it's almost like going in there and saying, I want green, but I want it muted. Let's use this one, and then here we are. Anyway, it can be a lot of fun. I have not done that process in a long time. I think I just find jelly printing more fun and a little bit easier to work with. But the papers I've gotten from that process have been really useful. So it's definitely something that I need to do again, because eventually I'm going to run out of them and I'm going to be sad. All right. Yeah, because these, and that's, when you work with tissue, especially wet tissue, sometimes it is going to tear, it's going to wrinkle. I love all of that. Hey, I told you we were making a mess. I think it adds interest. I think it adds depth and texture. This video is going to be so long. I can't help it. I really, really need to stop and drink water, but I can't because I'm in the middle. So yeah, so I need, those papers are like utility papers. I feel like they are extremely valuable. That's where you want to be. So it's definitely time to make those again. And that would honestly be a good video to do, because, you know, it still contributes to the overall journal work we're doing, but in just a different way. This is a semic writing. It's essentially text that doesn't spell or mean anything, or lines that look like text, but you can't read it. I like using this in pieces, but honestly, since this is a page with a lot of real text on it already, I don't think that's really all that necessary. This I'm gonna put aside and come back to. I think these are for slightly later in the piece. This I'm gonna put aside because I don't want to bring in that purple. This, just like the other one. And the same here. I've got some opaque pieces. I've got some of these little shapes from Tiny Gel. Oh my god. Yeah, like that needs to be in there. So I want to come back and do those later. In fact, the more I think about it, this is a good place to stop. It's not done. But what it is in a really great place to sit and dry and give me a good backdrop for where we go next. For example, when I used one of the early papers and I mostly pulled those gold bits, I pulled a little bit of magenta in there too. I actually want to cover that so that I pull that out of the color story we've got here. Oh, this is my remote so I can zoom in for you. So you can see a little closer where we're at. So yeah, this will give me an opportunity to further refine the papers, let stuff dry, and plan and think about where to go next, because I think we've gotten to a place with this where we've started shoring it up really nicely by adding more matter, and I just want to be very intentional about where we go from here. This was really exciting. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like this, please take a moment to give the video a like. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought. Or if you have suggestions or ideas or feedback, I love all of that. And subscribe and hit that bell if you want to follow along from day to day with my journaling. Again, really happy to have you here. This was an exciting time, and I'll see you tomorrow.